Thank you all for being here. You're the brave ones who made it to come after lunch. We're very proud of you to start with. So I have a very solid panel here with people from diverse backgrounds and experience, and I think they make the perfect panel to talk about the bubble. The challenge is that we got too many questions to ask. And to start with, I'd like to let you guys know there will be time for questions in the end, so I'd love if you could join the conversation. And we'll just be trying to provoke some thoughts and questions to the audience here. So please take note of your questions. So let's start. So for you to have an idea of the caliber of people that we have on the panel, if you could quickly introduce yourself for 1 minute, what you do, and why do you think what you are doing is relevant to this panel? Thank you. Maybe we'll start from Paul.
Hi, my name is Paul No. I'm from UbiNuri, based in Korea. My company is a publisher. Our main target is, of course, Korea and Japan and Taiwan. And so, and we are now trying to penetrate the Southeast Asian countries market. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Gary?
Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Huang from NetEase Games. We are Chinese game developer and game publisher as well. Right now, we set our office, of course, in mainland China and in San Francisco, US, also in South Korea and Japan. So we keep sourcing mobile games to mainland China. We think it's pretty promising market in China.
Girish?
Hi, I'm Girish Ramdas. I'm the CEO of Magzter. We are what we believe is the world's largest digital magazine store and newsstand. We are 4 years old and we've just crossed 28 million downloads. Globally, we have content from nearly 60 countries and 40 languages, including Chinese and Korean and Japanese and Spanish and a whole host of local languages. And you can read any magazine pretty much either on a single or subscription model. And recently we've just launched like a Netflix monthly subscription, read all you can magazine model. So I think that's kind of relevant to what we're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hi guys, I'm Vincent from Magic Box Asia. So we are a mobile game publisher in Southeast Asia as well. We're only established for 2 years. We are focused more on bringing games from abroad to this part of the region of the world. Our office space here in Bangkok, Thailand. Fortunately, I don't have to travel as far as many others of you guys. Yeah, so.
Awesome. I flew in from Kuala Lumpur, not from Brazil, just to make it clear. So it's not so far. But so let's start. We're talking about bubble, and I think that we are going to build on lots of statistics that have been given by Faisal from Google in the panel before. But mainly, if it's a bubble, it means that there is inflated value. There is no value. And we can raise the question, is it an app bubble we are facing, or is it a tech bubble we are facing? So let's first talk about apps and the challenges of app creation in terms of value creation, value discovery, and value delivery, and collection of it. So we have here people from distribution to app creation, and the concept itself of value is what I'd like to start with. So I'll throw the number that we received before. We have 10 million developers right now in the world, out of which 4.2 million are in Asia Pacific. And this is the number of people who are developing apps right now. So in a rough guess from you, especially I'd like maybe to hear from Paul because he's dealing with distribution, how many of these apps are making it there? Of 10 million app developers right now developing mobile, how many of those are making it to something sustainable?
Okay, yeah. Actually, as we know, there are some interesting statistics released by global marketing companies. And one of the impressive statistics says 60% of global, 60% of app developer in worldwide cannot get money more than $500 per month. So, and there are more and more developers, and but we cannot call it as a kind of a bubble because the app industry is growing very solidly. So last year, in terms of the number of download and in terms of the revenue, both Google Play and Apple App Store recorded more than 30 or 40% increase. The problem, the real problem is the disparity of the revenue or imbalance of the market opportunity between the big players and the small players. So that is my observation.
So before I give it to the other guys, you talked about this imbalance in terms of how the centralization of app stores represents this imbalance or is the cause of this imbalance. So what do you think are the main problems that affect the value of the apps coming from distribution, coming from the fact that we have centralized stores?
Okay, as a publisher, the game publisher, we deal with hundreds of mobile games, and most of them have the value, I mean the usage value, but only few of them can get the monetization value from the marketplaces, mainly due to the centralization of the marketplaces and the focusing on the big games. For example, in case of Korea, 10 big games account for more than 50% of the revenue. And we have another statistics that in China, 12 publishers, the games from 12 publishers accounted for about 90%, maybe you know, them better than me. But so in case of China, hundred thousands of developers are now struggling to get remaining 10%. So that is a kind of problem. And the main reason of this phenomena starting from the lack of the marketplaces. We only have two centralized global marketplaces, which is Google Play and Apple App Store. If we compare this phenomenon with the real world, it's kind of not imaginable the situation. In real world, we have department store and duty-free store and convenience store, discount store, many diversified marketplaces for vendors and manufacturers to sell their products in various manners. But in app industry, there are only a couple of marketplaces for the developers. That is the basic issues of the app industry.
I like what you're saying when you talk about how many apps are actually being downloaded or used by people. And we're having a brief conversation, and Girish was giving his point of view, and we're saying that in our front page, we have about 10 apps which we actually use every day. So what are all these apps that we are building? And what is value? And what is really value? Is it monetization? Is it engagement? So Girish, maybe you just want to bring up what is your point of view also based on Magzter's own story and the principles how you build Magzter.
Sure. I think like I was discussing earlier, we all have mobile phones in our hands, and normally the first screen, we have a few apps, normally near our thumb. So those are the apps which you use all the time. And then you have the page 2, which you might have some apps which you use frequently, but not that often. And then you have other pages which you normally don't even know what's in there. You download it because someone told you, someone said you got some promotion, but then you've forgotten about it. Right? From Magzter's perspective, we started off not chasing value in terms of valuation, because we wanted to start a business. We were like taking a physical magazine experience and getting it to the tablet or mobile device. That was the first step that we did. And from the day one of the launch of Magzter, we pretty much made it a paid system. So if you come to Magzter when we launched, there was nothing free. It was mostly some preview pages of magazines, after which if you like it, you have to buy. So it was not like, I got 100 trillion free users and I don't know how to monetize it. I have a few million users and all of them are paying. So I think we started off with a kind of paywall in front of us. It is a challenge, obviously, as more and more content goes free. but then we have a good conviction on the type of content that we have, that it's because people are willing to pay so long as they see value, right? So it's only a question of what they perceive as value that they're willing to click buy or not. Like for example, I mean, somebody's put up a statistics that 1% of the people pay for buying a game or pay for an app, right? I may be in that 1% because I have at least 3 apps on my phone which actually you have to pay for to start using. So I think there is a big market out there for people who want to pay either subscription or single kind of in-app purchases, but they need to see value in what they're buying.
That's a great topic, and that brings me to 2 questions. Actually, I want to include questions to Gary here, but before I go there, all of you guys who are in games, mainly Gary and Vincent, I agree with what Gary said, that people are willing to pay when they see value. And that value can be abstract in terms of, in a game, I buy a sword and I don't have that sword, but for that game, that's real value that I'm buying. So for Gary, how do you choose, given the position you have, where you actually are a business developer? So I suppose you have a financial monetization mind when you look at a game. Maybe I'm guessing wrong, but tell me about how do you perceive value in apps, and how do you choose the games or the apps which you would partner with?
Okay. Some people will say, okay, we are facing the bubbles here. But I wouldn't say that. I would use different angle to describe the mobile games industry. I would say it becomes more mature. So that means you have to provide a better quality or innovative gameplay to our users. That means you have to provide more value to attract them to stay in your games. Like 2 very popular games in China developed by ourselves, I would say they are the most profitable games in China right now. They are taking the number 1 and number 2 places in grossing chart in China. Because we thought like this industry is more mature. That means we have to added more complicated social system, or let our users can interact inside the mobile games. So that means they will use less people's applications or games in the same time, because normally they will play our games like 5 to 6 hours per day.
What?
Yeah, so that means our games, it's pretty complicated. Yeah,
Okay.
so not just games, it's also kind of the social platform in the meantime. So people will always log in to find their friends, to go through the different tasks and talk to each other. So I think if you want to attract more users, you have to think how to let people stay in your games and spend more time in there. So,
Which is what you call engagement, right? But in that case, not only the valuation might be higher because there is crazy engagement of like 5 hours in a game, but at the same time, what are the main sources of monetization for these games you're talking about? Is it mainly in-app purchases of like utensils or anything that's valuable within the game? Ads? What is the most relevant source of revenue for you?
okay, in China, the most popular way is use the free-to-play monetization, right? Most of players, Chinese players, they are reluctant to pay before they can experience your games. So if they think your games are quite nice, so they are willing to buy items in the games to make them look like stronger in the game. Especially, like I said, it's become more like social platform. That means you will have better status compared to others, or you can help your friends in a game to beat others, right? So it's kind of, it's also like in the real world, right? You want to dress up, look nicer, or use to buy in like the luxury goods, something like that, to help you have better social status.
So this is actually, Vincent, very much what your business is based in, right? Yeah.
Yes. So actually, I want to add a little bit to what Gary is saying. I do think like right now the app discovery and all that is I think it's time to go back to look at the content. That is the key. You know, no matter how right now we're reaching the market is maturing. When we say market is maturing, I think it's moving from back in 2008 or 2009, we have like what 50,000-60,000 apps in the, let's say, the Apple App Store. Right now we're approaching like what, more than 2 million. So when this is the case, right, it's the market get flooded with like limitless supply of content, and we're living in the age of content consumption. When there's so many content to select from, people start needing more, how do I say it, like education or more feeling on which one should they pick. They put more effort into picking.
And this brings us to the point on how the conversation started. And we were talking a lot about the channels not being only the discovery stores, but as well social media, friends' recommendations. And so what is the best way for an app to make it? Because exactly, we're talking about potentially 80% of the apps that start not going through. So what makes the difference of those who make it in terms of standing out? Right. Since I've experienced myself dealing with a math app game that we are helping out, and their main channel of discovery is the App Store, yet they are maybe the 20th in a row. So it's crazy that it's still the main channel for them, yet it's not easy to find them there. So how do you go through this to actually become an app who makes it? And how the main question, talking about Bubble, is like, what's going to happen as this market mature to those who don't make it? Are we creating new layers with opportunities for the others who are not making it to be absorbed? But what's going to happen? Then that's when we think about the bubble. What's going to happen with the 80% who doesn't make it?
I think, like he said, the market is maturing. So what happens is in any given category, I think there are hundreds of apps right now. And soon you will not see so many apps in each category. It will be more specialized. Because any app that you use today is based on a need. Even if it's a game, you might not like every game. You might not like every type of game. Some people might like something as basic as Flappy Wings, which I think has got bad UI, bad everything, but people love it. I don't know, I don't get it. But some people look for things which much more gameplay and levels. So I'm talking about in terms of games, that's one thing. But in terms of utilitarian apps, whether it's an Uber or whether it's a Magzter or weather or the calendar. I mean, right now an Apple device has a calendar, but I see at least 50 other calendar apps which tell you that they could be better than the Apple calendar app. So it's just that as it becomes more useful to a set of people, those people will download. But you want it to be used by as many people as possible to become the number one. Right? So I think the basic underlying point of any app should be its use. Right? If it's not useful to the guy who's having the phone, it will be lost. So I think many people are just looking at something and saying, okay, let me clone, let me create, I'll be 50 now, but some miracle, I will become number one like somebody else. Right? That's going to be a little tough challenge, but I think as like he said, the content quality, the quality of the app, the usefulness of the app come to the front. I think whatever that particular app is, it'll get talked about, and once it gets talked about, I think that's when it kind of takes off.
Awesome. You're nodding so much that I want you to speak now. What do you think?
I think I think the competition in this area is getting fiercer and fiercer. So That means people have to try, but still, right now, I think most of the developers facing the same situation, like how to create games or applications with innovative gameplay, or how to provide more value for our users. So I think right now we try to improve that, but still we use like added more platform, more system, like growing system, social system into our games. We use the like real-time voice system in the game. That means you can talk to your friends when you play the games. So that means if you want to create new games, you have to think about this, like what kind of games or application out there. So you have to compete with them to attract user from them.
So basically the market is becoming more complex, competition starts to like, you get a more mature market where you create different layers of the best apps, and it also requires more localization, which is something that, Paul, you talk a lot about, right? So how will localization and diversification of stores help solve a potential bubble problem?
Yeah. Actually, the more and more concentration is now being occurred. In order to make a breakthrough to overcome this situation, we need a kind of the multidimensional the cooperation between developers and the publishers and market service providers and so on. For example, there is a kind of the common understanding that it is RPG game and hardcore and midcore games that makes money in these marketplaces. So more and more developers are getting into this area, which means it leads the more severe competition. So I would like to suggest for the developers, please look yourself again and to make differentiation and diversification to fit your talent and to fit your qualification. That's task for the developer. But even though the developers make this kind of diversified and multiple levels of categories of game, it is of no use if there is no the diversified marketplaces. So as a publisher and as channels, those players need to establish some alternative marketplaces other than the Google Play and Apple App Store.
Perfect.
In order to accommodate those kind of diversified the contents. Yeah.
I see you nodding a lot now, so you were going to speak.
So let me add a little bit to that as well.
Yeah.
Like we take a different approach, slightly different approach. We still believe the core of success to any app is still in the content itself. So localization and communicating it correctly. At Magic Box, we focus on three things: content, communication, and then the community. So all three of these have to work in unison in order for something to the value to be really truly realized. Now, when we talk about like localization or discovery, we have to localize not only the content in the game itself, and it's the way you communicate the app or the game to the market itself as well. One example that I always like to give is, so we tried this out in our company. We have some marketers who are actually from Indonesia. And we tried giving them to think of some campaigns to run into Thai players, to the Thai game players. So some of the campaigns that got created was, for example, using pad thai or durian as the agent to create interest. But then, the local players, game players, when they see something like this, they think, wow, this is some tourist marketing. it doesn't work like that. So for us, like, I think it's very, very important, especially in Southeast Asia, to understand the culture and then delivering it in the right manner.
Interesting. So I'm gonna bring one last question for all of you guys, which is especially starting from Girish, if you wanna start, because you have developed Magzter here, and you are focusing on the BRICS, on the BRIC at least, like on emerging countries. And you always had this very strong opinion as well about monetization. You built a business which from the beginning was making money and generating revenue. So how do you think it is different to start an app, either it be a mobile game or utility, whatever app, from Southeast Asia or from any emerging country versus starting it in the Silicon Valley? How does it impact the way you build it, the way you think and focus on valuation, monetization, and basically the sustainability of your app?
Sure, I think that's a long question. So I think just to
Sure,
quickly,
30 seconds.
Yeah. So assuming we start a local, like a Bangkok company starts a Magzter, right? It's going to be very difficult for them to globally scale, at least in our business, to take it to the next level. If they are Silicon Valley based, like we are New York based, even we have a problem. But if we are Silicon Valley based, the thought of valuation is very different. They only want user engagement. They want stickiness. They want 6 hours of gameplay a day. So that's what they are looking for valuation. But when you look at even a VC in this geography who's funding, they're like, how much money have you made? What is your EBITDA? It's more of financial metrics. And when will you break even? That is kind of the question that comes about from this geography because it's more conservative. When you go, I think it's maybe now similar in China as in Silicon Valley, where they want huge mass adoption. And then they figure out what they should do. Whether it's a Twitter or whether it's a Pinterest, whether it's whatever, you've seen big names coming out of the Silicon Valley with zero monetization but huge valuation. I think it's because they've got that user, they didn't bother about monetization, and they just get these engaged users, and then they figure out what to do, and then take it to the next level. So I think the disadvantage of being a local player is that you have to really work hard. Because even for us, even though I'm Indian and I live in New York, one would look at me and say, oh, you're an Indian app. Right? A Magzter is an Indian app, but it isn't. So once they realize it's a US-based app, there's a much more kind of welcoming feeling from investors and from users in the West, rather than saying I'm from a local geography. So I think that's one of the kind of minuses. But the plus is that if you do something so well in your geography, that somebody, like if you are the biggest magazine store and Magzter is not able to crack the market, I will end up buying the local guy. So you have that benefit of, if you do it so well in your local geography, you can actually earn a lot of money by selling out to a big player. Like if you're a big e-commerce player in Thailand and Amazon is not able to get in, they will buy you. So that's a benefit as well. So it's a kind of a 50-50 which way it goes.
Thank you. And how does it translate in games? In terms of like, I see many companies who start in Southeast Asia or even Latin America, like we have no option. We have to make money at the start. There is no inflated valuation, not even like 100 mil cash being put in your company out of nowhere. So you gotta monetize somehow. And our market doesn't want to pay most of times. So how do you go for building a business, a mobile game, to become successful from here?
Okay, I think, like I said before, how to attract users is very important. When our company try to develop new games, we don't want to just think how to make money first. We have to think how to attract users first, like what kind of gameplay we want to create, and if they can attract users. After that, we will think how to make money after that. So, like I said, because of the competition, so if you cannot attract users to stay your games, no matter how complicated monetization you have, you can't get any money. So I think content is very important, user experience and the community. When you can attract a lot of users, that means you create an online community for users. So then you can make money from that. That's my opinion.
May I have just a final thought from the other panelists? And I hope we have time for questions. Okay, so maybe just a final thought if you have any on this one.
So I think the entertainment or coming from the mobile game industry, I think the demand for entertainment is always going to be there. Similar to movies, it's like 80, 100 years old industry. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to still be the same. As long as, but then the bubble or no bubble, I think it's just the market maturing, mm-hmm. Moving into more choices, more option, more competition for better content and users. Yeah. But I don't think there's anything to be like super alarmed about mm-hmm. The situation.
Awesome. Paul?
As I mentioned earlier, please look at diversification and your own niche market rather than going into the mainstream in which there are very severe competition. For example, in case of localization, if before you look at your mission for the localization, you need to look at which marketplaces are you focusing on. Like mentioned about the BRICS countries, the Brazil, India, Indonesia, and including the Thailand is a kind of emerging market in which you need to look at your opportunities.
And not to say that, as Girish mentioned before, the US may be saturated, but these emerging countries, they have so much to grow, even in mobile penetration and internet. So for now, thank you very much for your insights, guys. And I'd like to give it to the crowd, and I hope you guys have many questions for them. Okay, so how do we go about it? You guys raise your hands.
Questions, anyone?
Okay, raise your hands if you have questions or challenges, or if you don't agree with something. Okay, anyone thinks that we are in a net bubble here? Okay, I think these guys are very positive. So,
I think this is the post-lunch blues.
I think so, yeah. I'm actually very glad that I see you guys like with your eyes open and like fully paying attention. If we just can close, then I think if there are no questions, you can approach the panelists after the panel and talk about it. And I'd just like to wrap. I think the core learning here is that I agree that is more of a changing levels of market rather than a bubble. And as the market evolves, the 80% who fails may be incorporated into different needs in the market, corporate app building or new technologies or Apple Watch. I don't know what's going to happen with this. So would you guys like to add anything, give a final message to the crowd? Good? Awesome. Time's up. Thank you very much, guys, for being the panel. Thank you very much for being here.
Could I now invite to the stage Mrs. Purnima Venkatesh to present tokens of appreciation to our fabulous panelists, including Gary Huang, International Business Development Director at NetEase Games, Girish Ramdas, co-founder and CEO of Magzter, Paul No, founder and CEO of UbiNuri Incorporated, Vincent Sethiwan, CEO of Magicbox Asia Company Limited, and our phenomenal moderator, Laís de Oliveira, founder of 8spaces.co.